All right. Well, for those of you that don't know, I'm Joe Outlaw, extension economist and on ag policy, and also the co-director of the Ag and Food Policy Center here on campus. I'm going to be talking to you about the CFAP program, and I don't know. Hopefully, some of you have gotten signed up. I know a lot of producers around the state have contacted me, and I help to walk them through some of the process. So I know that we're making progress on getting signed up for these programs. But those of you that haven't, hopefully I'll tell you something you didn't know, and we can uh, basically get you thinking about getting signed up. Um, as terms of the COVID-19 and the responses, obviously this is part of the third phase, which is the ag CFAP is the ag part of the CARES Act, and so if you wanted to at the end, if you have questions or any time if you need a clarification, but um, we have three phases on the screen, and it says phase 4 to be determined, and frankly, the House has already passed and funded a couple more $1 trillion that I assume there'll be some ag stuff. It wasn't very clear, to be frankly, but the Senate is yet to act, and it takes both of them to act on a bill to get that process done. But if you ask me, I think there'll be more help coming. But in terms of help for uh, these calves that you may be being born now or born in the spring, I think that there'll be some more help there, but we can talk about that in just a second. Key takeaways. Obviously, we did a report. If you're really interested in it, I'll show you where to find that in a bit. But most of what I'm going to talk to you about was in our report. It's been out for a little bit. It's on our website. Two components to CFAP. There's this direct distribution that you keep hearing about on the news, where food banks are getting about $3 billion worth of food, all different types of things: beef, meats, milk, and fruits and vegetables. Uh, that's that's important, and that's happening. What I'm going to really talk to you about today is the direct support for farmers and ranchers. It's going to total about 16 billion whenever all said and done. The sign up already started May 26th. And again, don't mess around and miss August 28th. I don't believe there'll be any extension on that. Um, so you need to get your paperwork in. It's too easy to get this done. Um, in terms of when I talk to people, and if there's any confusion about this particular program, it's because they use two sources of funds. And so when you look in those tables I'm about to show you, there it talks about CARES Act money and CCC money, or Commodity Credit Corporation. Two different pots of money. You're going to get one payment. Frankly, you shouldn't care where the money comes from. If you deserve to get it, you deserve to get it. But that's the part that makes it most confusing to folks. Producers payments. So if you're due $100,000, you're only going to get 80% initially. They're doing that to make sure they don't run out of money. I've been doing this policy stuff 30 some odd years, and they've never run out of money whenever they have an obligation. So I'm not real worried about that. And if you're a crop farmer, and I get the number one question I get in this state is people saying, what about who's not going to get anything? And my answer is the hay guy in this state or any other state typically doesn't get anything, and they're not going to get stuff on this on the crop side. So let me just tear into that part. I've already said most of this stuff. The red part there again, when a crop is determined to be eligible, it had to have more than a 5% drop in price from the week average of 13 to 17 of January to April 6th to 9th. And we've got some wheat farmers all around this state and across the nation kind of going nuts over this because wheat prices didn't fall by 5% as they calculated it. Peanuts, same thing, and rice in this state. So there's some things some commodities that will not be helped. But again, if you can come up with credible evidence that they're wrong and you're right, then your producer group could kind of petition them to get that changed. There is a bigger list of what is included in the support. And I know that these folks, y'all are really interested in the livestock side, but there's a lot of stuff on the crops, the specialty crops, and as well as dairy and wool. But we're going to focus today mainly talking about livestock. Now, at the bottom of the page, it says USDA's interested in helping out nursery folks and aquaculture. So basically, if you were a catfish farmer somewhere, they just didn't have enough information to figure out how to design a program for you, but they'd like to work with you to help you out. So that's important. Now on the payment limit side, unless you're Joe Pascal feeding a bunch of cattle out, there may or may not be a problem with this. Right now, CFAP payments $250,000 per person or and this is where FSA is a little bit mad at me about this, because the folks in DC that we talked to with that agency said that they expect for typical programs, crop programs in this country, there's something called spousal doubling, and typically if you are eligible for payments, then your spouse will be eligible as well. And we think that that's probably going to be the case here, but there's not been any rules put out by FSA saying that. But we didn't just make it up. Somebody in DC told us that was going to be the case. So we'll yet to be seen, but $250,000 is a pretty good size payment. One thing that did change on this, if usually a corporation is a legal person, so that's one limit, but they've changed it so that corporations, LLCs, LLPs, they can have up to 3 shareholders eligible. So that'd be $750,000. And this is one of those deals where they were actually thinking a little bit ahead, and with people with a lot of ownership of cattle in the feed yards, they expanded the rules for the first time in my career to include these types of entities could have up to 3 people qualify. There's still an AGI limit of $900,000 on a 3-year moving average. Again, an adjusted gross income is after a lot of expenses are taken out, and it's really pretty close to profit. So for the most part in agriculture policy, when someone hits that limit, it's because of oil revenues or selling a whole bunch of land. But it's a 3-year average, so it's very unlikely, and across the United States, less than 5% of the producers actually hit that. And again, it's usually not because of ag. And there's a deal that if 75% of the receipts come from ag, then it doesn't apply anyway. For producers, we really think, and just as a matter of course, there'll be some folks with enough cattle in the feed yard that they're going to get payment limited out, and then we think dairies are going to have that problem as well, and probably some fruits and vegetable folks in the valley. The payment calculations are fairly straightforward. They kind of breaks into what was sold and what's on inventory kind of thing. Is broken into 2 different things, and it'll become clear soon. But if we were talking to row crop farmers, it's really unpriced inventory, and it's unpriced inventory is of April, January 15th, I guess. So a lot of, usually in the crop side, most of them are harvested in the fall and they're sold before that time. So this is really, they're going to be paying on row crops on a little bit of unpriced inventory. The last bullet is the most important one on this page, which basically said this is a producer self-certification. You can go through the website, print it off, sign it, send it in, and get paid. And no one, unless you get randomly drawn, you are going to be fine. As long as you're not fudging stuff, then there's not going to be a problem if you are randomly drawn. But you better have some receipts and documentation on hand. People ask me on the cow side, what's documentation? And even for myself, I had to ask this question of someone in FSA of, I keep a record of when cows had calves and stuff like that. Is that the kind of documentation you need? And they said, yes, just take a picture of it and have it on hand. So that's the kind of documentation. It's not a big deal. So let's get into the actual payments. On livestock, again, a single payment, but it's the sum of two different components, and I did them in different colors to try to make it clear. The red part is on things you marketed. That's got to be getting money from the CARES Act, as I told you, that bucket of money. The green is payment on unpriced inventory that's on the operation, the highest number that you had between April 16th and April 14th. That's going to get those payment rates. It's in the green box in this table. So again, you get the number of head, multiply it times the right rate, and for sales during that January 15th to April 15th, and that inclusive means if you sold stuff, it's not between January 15th and April 15th, it's including January 15th and including April 15th. So just to be clear. The point here is if you sold some mature cows, culled them during that window, they're going to get $92 a head. Now, if you hadn't sold them, you kept them, and they're still in the inventory April 16th to May 14th, and they're going to get $33 a head. So as you can probably figure out, that date of when things had to be sold by has gotten really important. The only concern that people have that I deal with is they get really, really mad when they sold stuff out of the window. So like they sold April 17th or April 18th or April 30th, whatever. Those are the people that get a little bit irritated because the difference in payments is significant. And that's kind of the thing where I actually talked to the people that designed this program on the phone last week, and they asked me what people thought about it. I said, generally, people are very appreciative. The ones that are not very appreciative do not understand why you picked April 15th as the last date. And it had everything to do with they have a certain bucket of money, and they didn't know how, if they made it too inclusive, that number would go up and they wouldn't have enough money to pay everybody. So that's kind of how that worked out. Looking at an example, we had one of our colleagues put together an example, and you would think of all the crap that we do that we got beat up over where's the bulls on this operation, and my answer is, oh my gosh, it's an example. We're really good at AI. That's what I'm going to say. Anyway, it has 100 cow-calf pairs, including 100 unweaned calves, so obviously, and then last year's calves are still kept somewhere around on the operation as weaned calves on stocker type thing. So assume the weaned calves were sold on April 13th. So they're sold in the window, and all we got to know is how much they're sold at. And they weighed 800 pounds, so that we can look at our table and say that they're over 600, so they're going to get that 100 head of stockers is going to get $139 a head, as the example says. Then I still have my 100 cows at $33 a head. I have 100 unweaned calves at $33 a head. Add up, and that's $20,500. I get 80% right off the top. I get a check for $16,400. Sign up started, whatever it was, May 26th, and people are already getting paid. So this is going to work pretty fast if you haven't gotten your stuff in. That's one example, and that's the happy example. The sad example is, no, the old boy sold that 100 head on April 20th, outside the window. He didn't sell anything in the window of January 15th to April 15th. So all he has is those 100 weaned stockers basically are inventory, and they get $33 a head. So his payment went in half because of a couple of days, and that's where the people are upset. Total CFAP payment $9,900 proration, so you get about half. And this is kind of where it works out. I explained to you why it is the way it is. If I do think there are people in Washington, if you're unhappy with that, there are people in Washington saying if we do another round, then we probably want to revisit going back and paying people like this example right here where you sold barely outside that window. Prices were still down, but you didn't get very much. So what am I saying? I'm saying that there are people kicking around the idea of you've already got $33 a head for those 100 weaned calves that you sold on April 20th. How about we give you X number more if you can provide proof that you sold them? And most people can do that with sales receipts, so not a big deal. That's what's going on. There's a couple of things, and this came out. David Anderson, who was on here earlier, he came down the hall and said, "Hey, just so you know, Texas doesn't usually have 1,400-pound feds. Our average is somewhere in the 12 to 1,300 pounds, and if it's specified in the law that basically they fed cattle weighing in excess of 1,400 pounds." And David said, you know, our carcass weights will be more than 800 pounds, but our live weight won't. And anyway, that would have excluded a lot of people in Texas from being able to participate. And they clarified it pretty quickly because people lost their minds. So anyway, it's going to be the averaging between 1,200 and 1,600, so that ought to keep everybody happy. But that was something that came up. I'm not going to go into it very much, but hogs and pigs. I did get the answer to a question that I got asked from an extension colleague. An extension colleague's question was this, and they asked me about 3 weeks ago, and I got the answer this week. What about show steers that, you know, you ended up having to do something with them, but the show was canceled? Well, it took 3 weeks, but we got the answer that those could be included in this. Now, if you're a guy that doesn't normally participate in FSA programs, it's a lot of paperwork. Not a lot, but it's paperwork for what would be well, $200, $214. So we'll see what people want to do about that. But I did find out. I get lots of random questions when these programs come out, and obviously when they write the rules, they write the rules based on kind of average situation, and everybody's got a unique deal. Probably no one in that viewing audience has wool, and probably not about dairy, but those programs are supported, as well as the non-specialty crops. Some of you may actually have some of these, so I'll go through it just briefly. It's unpriced inventory, and they're going to get an averaging of these two rates, and you can't get paid on anything more than half of your production from last year. And so you get paid on half of the production from last year, and then half of that half gets one of these rates, the CARES Act rate, and half of the other half gets the CCP payment rate. Because it's a 50-50 deal, we just average the payment rates, and that's what you get. So in corn in Texas, if you were growing corn, you get 33 cents. 33.5 cents times half of your production if it was still unpriced and in storage somewhere. Pretty straightforward process. I had a lot of people mad about this because, frankly, we don't have a lot of people holding anything this long into the new year. Some people do that have on-farm storage, but for the most part, we didn't have that many. And some of the people who had sold earlier were mad because they said they thought it was, if you weren't priced, that's the only people that can get paid is if you're unpriced inventory. They thought that was bad marketing, so we're rewarding bad marketers. I don't want to go there. I just said that it is what it is. I did have a call about this, and this is something everybody needs to know. This is only for the 19 crop. We expect the prices are way down for 2020. So everything that's growing out there right now, when it starts getting harvested, they're going to see prices that are terrible. So I fully expect additional assistance sometime in the future for the 2020 crop. And I'll just say it that way. Unpriced, basically they came up with this little table that says these are the types of contracts that are eligible, and these are the types of contracts that are not eligible for CFAP money on having grain in storage. If you have any specific questions, I can answer those later. Specialty crops, again, y'all are kind of on the edge of the specialty crop world down there, but they have three different categories of payments. People who lost, well, I'll back up. The first category is quantity that was sold. in those dates between January 15th and April 15th. The next category is harvested and transported but spoiled because, say, the hotel you're sending it to shut down, so they didn't have anywhere to go with it. So that quantity gets a different payment rate. And the very last one is stuff that just unpriced, did not leave the farm for whatever reason. And there's rates for everything. I assume if there's somebody grew something that wasn't a rate for, we can figure out what that would be. These are some concerns. Everybody's saying that the April 15th cutoff on sales was arbitrary. I feel like it was too. Actually, I know it was, but I was told that they were going to make it earlier, so that would have shrunk the window down. So here's where we're at. If you haven't signed up, but you're normally somebody, I think I'm talking to cow-calf people today, so most of us, me included, Pascal included, at some point in our life have signed up for a livestock forage program because we've got drought quite often. If you've done that in the past, then you've done most of these forms already. But if you haven't, you're going to have to fill out most of the forms in green listed on this screen. So if you're brand new, never signed up for a program with FSA, you've got a number of forms to fill out. You need to just call the office and ask them to send them to you so you can get working on it. Or you can download them actually off of farmers.gov /CFAP. All those forms are sitting right there. The one that the form to sign up for this program is the 80-3114. And when this first came out, we got all excited. We developed a calculator that's on our website that I'll show you the URL in a minute. But frankly, and this is a compliment, it's not going to sound like much of one, but this is a compliment. But for the first time ever, FSA did a really nice job on their tool to help people get signed up. So if I were you, and I didn't know anything about this, I'd probably watch the YouTube video by clicking on this link. The blue link says HTTPS. That's a video, and it kind of walks you through how to use their calculator, which their calculator, the reason why I suggest you use theirs is their calculator, at the end of it, you can hit a button and it's going to print out the form for you and you're done. You just got to sign it and send it in. If you use our tool, you can find out how much your payments are going to be, but there's no button to push and you're not going to get the form printed out, so you'll have to go back and re-enter. There is a form to be downloaded. I can tell you that if you use their tool, it's a lot easier and it explains things better. And at the end, the final rule, that's what they call the rules on this. The final rule said that the completed 80-3114 can be submitted to any USDA service center. It says that in black and white, so I put it on the slides. But I did get told, I followed up and I said, is that really true? Because if they're used to dealing with you in one county and you send it halfway across the country for some reason, what I've been told is they're gonna mail it to the county where your control county. If you're a crop guy, you know what that means. That's where you usually go sign up with FSA. And if you're a livestock guy, that's where you've gone in and filled out the programs for LFP. So my suggestion is get with the county office where you normally do business and tell them you're going to be submitting this. Make sure that you've got all these green ones taken care of and you're good to go. Again, you go to farmers.gov /CFAP, and their tool is listed in the middle of the page. It's going to calculate the stuff for you, and it walks you through filling it out. Fairly straightforward. And then you can hit the print button and you're done. If you need help, you can call my office, and I have students sitting around waiting to explain to you how to do this. But whatever way we need to do this, we need to get you signed up. Here's the form. And frankly, if you fill out the form on your own, you gotta have next level knowledge. This form is not all that easy. The thing on the website you fill out online is much easier than this. You gotta know. In fact, I'm going to use the other form because I do this all the time, and this form is not all that straightforward. You got to know exactly what to put where. The other one walks you through it all. But you see, you sign it. It's self-certification. You send it in. With that, any questions? Again, if you missed something and you want to go click on the bottom link on this page, I've done a video of me and my partner have done a video talking through this program if you wanted to kind of follow up and get some more details. But if you want any help at all, you just got to call my office phone number right there, and we'll get you to somebody, either me or one of the students will help you, walk you through it. We do have a calculator, as well as the publication I mentioned earlier is on that www.afpc.tmu.edu. The calculator that we have is on the left side of the top of the page, and the publication is at the top of the right side of the page. So with that, or you can send me an email and I'll get a hold of you and we can work this out together if you got any specific questions. But it is not that hard. There's no reason not to sign up for this program unless you're just one of these people that doesn't want the government in your business. You know, they're going to be in your business a little bit, but there is money to help pay for this sales that occurred that, you know, it doesn't matter if you got the best price you've ever gotten. They didn't ask you that. They're not asking you what you got for your animals. They just want to know how many you sold in that time period. They're going to pay you per head. And then on the inventory side, it's the highest inventory. So obviously you got track of when every calf was born. Most of us do. Whatever the biggest inventory in that window, starting with April 16th to May 15th, that's what you turn in there. And you'll have mother cows and you're going to have calves and whatever else, bulls. Most people have bulls, so there you go. But that's $33 a head for inventory. So with that, I'm going to stop the show and see if there's any questions for me.
We do, Dr. Joe. We got one. It says if you have in the chat, if you have cow-calf operations in more than one county, do you need to submit multiple applications per county?
No, you can combine them all.
Okay, thank you.
As long as, like I said, we call it a control county on the crop side. Everybody does business with a particular county office, and if you have locations in 3 different counties, you don't usually deal in 3 different counties. You deal with the one, and they take care of all the stuff. As an example, I have cows in Brazos County. I have cows in South Texas. I do things here. That's my control county for all my cows. So it makes it pretty simple.
Any other questions out there while we have Dr. Outlaw? Well, we're way ahead on schedule, so if there's no other questions, well, this is the time to ask questions. We got Dr. Outlaw here. You can raise your hand or use that text chat. And
I couldn't see the chat, so now I can see it. So
okay.
There.
All right, so we got one other topic. Dr. Pascal wanted to give a fever tick update, and again, Dr. Outlaw, thank you for participating with us today. That's very good information. And
yep, I'm going to get off. But the main thing is, if you have any question whatsoever, don't feel. This is my job. This is what I do every day. I field questions from people across the country. So just send it to me either, or you can get it to Brian or anybody, and it doesn't matter. Just send me your question. I'll help you out with it. So we'll see you later.
All right, Joe. Thanks again.